good opportunity also for us to accelerate on the alternative energies. And you have seen here in the slides, we've shown the solar panel that we have been implementing in Seychelles. I think it's a good move. And I think the crisis around energy, it's a good opportunity for us to re-explore and to accelerate also our transition to renewable energy source. So yes, it's a risk. I think it's a limited risk, honestly, for us, and it could be also an opportunity to accelerate our transition.
Okay, a question on Red Lobster. So and the impact of the U.S. interest rate. So how does the rising interest rate affect our next revaluation of Red Lobster's preferred units?
I think we said in Q2 that for Q3 and Q4 we're expecting some further increase of the Fed interest rate. So right now we are exactly where we were expecting to be. I think the 75 bips increase last week was kind of expected. So right now the numbers we did present last time and we shown again in our slide are still valid. Okay, we still expect not to record anything, neither positive or negative in Q3, and also the same in Q4. Of course, we need to remain very agile here, because depending on what the Fed will decide, there may be some changes. But right now in Q3, we don't expect any change compared to what we did communicate in Q3. Of course, I'm sure you all heard the speech coming from the Fed. The Fed was very pushy. Right now, the inflation rate is still very high in the US, still in the range of 8 to 9%. And the clear message from the Fed was to say they want to get back to 2%, and they will continue to increase over the next months, over the next quarters, their interest rate until the inflation get back to a more normal rate. Okay, so we do expect to have in Q4 also some other increase in terms of interest rate, and also in 2023. Okay, this is clearly the direction. We don't hear at all about some easiness in the interest rates. Okay, but for us right now, the scenario we did share in Q2 is absolutely valid, and right now this is the expectation of what is going to happen in Q3.
Okay, and we have a question asking about the Thai Union providing a guarantee to back up Red Lobster's credit facility. Could you elaborate more on that? And then, is there any potential for a further one-off item or further impact related to the preferred units?
Right. So you're right. I think in August we did announce that we did provide a $65 million guarantee to Red Lobster. Of course, you know, they have a loan. They have a loan to few financial partners, and we're in constant discussions with them. And given the recent performance of Red Lobster, we agreed to provide a guarantee, a financial guarantee of $65 million to Red Lobster. You know that there are some specific covenants that Red Lobster has to meet. So here, if they don't achieve one of these covenants over the next few months, then the guarantee will be exercised on this one. So this is the idea between this one, and here we want to show that we definitely support Red Lobster. We believe we can turn around the business, but on the same side, you could understand that given the past few years' performance of Red Lobster, that kind of request and support was requested from the financial partners. There is one question regarding write-off on preferred shares. Just to make it very clear, there was no write-off at all. Okay. In Q2, remember I told you that every quarter we have to do a fair value, okay, a fair value valuation, okay? And in Q2, the fair value dropped just because of the interest rate increase, okay? But it's not considered to be a write-off at all. It's just a fair value adjustment. I just want it to be very clear for you.
So do we see any potential need for further? Do we see any further potential one-off impacts in the future?
No, I think I already answered this one. I think we don't expect anything in Q4. For 2023, I think it's a bit too early to mention that. But let's see on that. But for Q3, we don't expect any change on that.
Okay, thank you, Ludo. How much percentage of sales in the US comes from ambient?
Quick one, roughly. Do you have it?
I can help on this answer. Normally in US, come from ambient around 30%. Come from frozen about 50%.
Wow, I would have said 1/3, so I was quite close.
Okay. Comparing to Q2, so Q on Q, can we expect revenues and gross margin to expand?
So I think on this one I said on so Q on Q here you are comparing to Q2. So in Q2 we did achieve a record high sales in Q2. I think Q3 will be also very strong. Okay, if you compare, usually Q3 is always very strong for us. It wasn't the case last year. The growth in Q3 21 was kind of limited, something around 2%. Again, we were facing some few issues in terms of closures, some of our factories for a bit of time. We don't have the same issues. So again, the top line is expected to be very strong, growing versus last year, versus Q3 21 by a double-digit growth. Okay, and here the key drivers I think I expect it to be again the pet care and value added. We do expect to have a strong growth because last year one of our factory was closed for a certain period of time in Q3. We do expect to see the ambient also growing, and the frozen will continue to normalize. So we do expect a lower growth coming from the frozen business. So overall, of course, when we say the pet care and the ambient are growing and the frozen in terms of mix is declining a bit, I think it's good for gross profit. You know that these are the most profitable business. Of course, when you have our most profitable business growing, then there should be some positive impact on our gross profit margin. And this is why overall we do expect the gross profit margin to be in the high range of the full year guidance, and even maybe exceeding a bit in Q3.
Yeah, so we have a question on the interest rate assumption in 2023. I think you have answered or touched on that.
Yeah, I think we don't depending which interest rate are we talking about. If we're talking about the interest rate on the preferred share, this is 8%. There was no change, and this is a fixed amount. It's per the contract. If you are talking about discount rate, we do move from a range of 8 to 9 to 9, 10, or 11. Okay, so we just follow the normal curve of the interest rate. So it has been growing a lot since Q1 and in Q2 also, and this is why in Q2 we had to take this position and to reverse basically what we did record in Q1.
Okay. Will the recession risk and high inflation in the US pose any impact to demand of Red Lobster given the increase in selling prices?
So this is something we are very careful. I think you're right. There is clearly a risk for recession, and I think it will happen. In the US, we have very high inflation. We told you that one of our key actions also at Red Lobster was to increase our prices. So we did increase our prices by 10% and in August. Okay, so you will not see yet the impact in Q3, but more probably in the next quarters. I think we were the last one to do that. I think we were a bit late, to be frank, compared to our competitors, and we should have done that earlier. In order to improve the performance. But of course, at Red Lobster, we are always trying to attract some new guest count. So it's not an easy choice. But here, given the raw material increase, the labor cost increase also, I think there was no choice than doing this one. So of course, we do expect there will be some impact on the guest count. The question is by how much. Right now, the topic is everyone has been raising the prices. And I just get back from the US. I was there 2 weeks ago. I was at Red Lobster, and the prices are very high. Okay, so if you go to a restaurant, even for just to buy a burger, you have to pay $20 or $20+. So it's very expensive. So yes, there is inflation. You know also that the fuel price was high, and you know the fuel price is something which is very emotional for the US people. So usually when the fuel price is very high, they will try to cut some of their discretionary spend. Okay, and of course, going to the restaurant is one of their discretionary spend. Okay, they can decide to eat at home instead of going to the restaurant, or even if they go to the restaurant, they will pick up, and instead of going to a premium restaurant, to a fine dining restaurant, or to a casual dining restaurant, they will go to a Burger King, McDonald's, or whatever on that. So yes, we do expect there will be some impact on the guest count. We need to see now the quantum and the magnitude. Okay, and this is why all of this is connected. Of course, you can see the Fed increasing the interest rate to try to decrease the inflation. Right now, it was not successful, and this is why we do expect some further increase of the interest rate in over the next months and quarters.
Okay, there's a question on tax credits. How much can we expect in Q3 and Q4, as we had quite a bit of tax credits in the first half of this year?
Yeah, that's correct. I think we should expect to have lower tax rate. I told you our profitability overall should be improving. In Q3, we have something which is very specific this year. we have really a very strong performance from Thailand. Okay, the US are more under challenge. I'm just talking about the ambient and frozen. I think operations in the US are more under challenge. Europe also is not so great, and usually these are the key contributors in terms of tax expenses. Okay, so our performance in Q1 and Q2 was very strong in Thailand, and you know that in Thailand we are enjoying a very low tax rate because we are exporting the vast majority of our products. Okay, so this is when you were looking at Q1 and Q2. Basically, the most successful business that we had was in Thailand, and we don't have a very high tax rate on this one. But on the flip side, there were some losses in the US coming from Red Lobster and coming some other parts of the business also, and these were the key ones generating some tax credit. Okay, in Q3 again, our profitability will be improving, so our tax credit will be decreasing. Okay, so we don't know yet if it will be a tax expense or a small tax credit, but we should be in kind of range, but definitely it will be lower compared to Q1 and Q2.
We have a question on the tuna raw material prices. Can you guide what the prices in September and what's our expectation in Q4? And how are these going to impact our margin in Q4?
So here in July and August, I think the prices were, I think, aligned with our expectation. We told you at the end of June that the prices of the tuna should go up a bit on this one, and this is what they did. They went to 1,800 in August, and then they are decreasing now a bit to 1,600 in September. We need to have the confirmation, of course, but basically what we told you in Q2 is exactly what's happened. So increase in July and August, and then decrease in September. So this is in our comfort zone, I would say, and this is aligned with our expectation. Right now, we don't see a direct impact from the high fuel costs to the fish price. Hopefully, it will continue. At this stage, we don't expect any significant change to happen in Q4. You know that usually the prices can go down a bit in Q4, and this is what we do expect to have on this one. So at this stage, we don't expect any significant impact on our gross profit margin. As long as we are below this 1,700, we say we can manage, and our gross profit margin should remain kind of stable.
Okay. Can we assume sales growth in Q3 at around 18% year on year, which 9% from baht depreciation and 9% in dollar growth?
I think we cannot share detailed amount. I think you know the guidance from the SEC is very clear on that. So here the guidance for Q3 is we will be in the high range of our full year guidance. I think this is quite clear. Definitely there will be some positive impact coming from the FX. And again, I think the demand overall, the volume growth should be there. The pricing impact will be very strong also. So the same factors that we had in Q2 should repeat again in Q3.
Okay, how is the overall sales momentum in Q4? I'm not sure if you mean Q3, but okay, how's the overall sales momentum? Did you see any impact from the economic slowdown in the US and EU so far?
So if the question is on Q3, right now we don't see any real impact coming from the economic slowdown. Okay, one thing you need to keep in mind is usually we are doing quite well when the world is facing some crisis. Okay, why? Because especially our ambient business are quite cheap. It's a cheap source of proteins everywhere. So usually when there is an economic slowdown, we are not negatively impacted, okay, on this one. So we are not really concerned on this one. Of course, we are always careful. We are always very sensitive to what is happening. And yes, very likely there is right now, we can see an economic slowdown. Yes, there is a risk for recession. Some countries already are in recessions, but we don't see a decrease in our product. Okay, the demand for our product overall is still very strong. It was the same already in H1, and we do expect to have the same situation to happen again in H2.
Okay, and maybe just a follow-up question on can we maintain the same momentum in Q4?
Yeah, we need to see. Achieving a double-digit growth for us is a bit unusual, and I think we did enjoy that in Q2. I told you we expect the same to happen also in Q3. And we do expect also the same to happen in Q4 so far, okay, unless there is any significant change. We told you the full year guidance is to be between 10 to 12%. I think at the end of H1, we were at 12%. So we were expecting the growth to remain still very high in H2. And I think that will be the case in Q3. And we do expect also to be the same in Q4. You know, Q4, our sales are always dropping a bit compared to Q2, compared to Q3. This will happen again. No, these are normal seasonality. But yes, overall, they will remain very high.
Can we assume growth in each businesses like this? So pet care growth above average, pet care and value add growth above average, frozen growth below average, and ambient growth on average.
So yeah, I think it's kind of a good summary, and this is what I mentioned before. I told you again, the pet care will grow quite significantly in Q3. Again, the comparison was a bit polluted by the closure of some of our factories. Okay, so it will not be a sustainable growth. Okay, just to manage the expectation. The ambient also is still high, so they will be on the average. I do believe that's correct. And the frozen, I think the frozen, we told you in Q2 already, there was some normalization in the price of the lobster and the price of the crab in the US. So here we do expect the growth to be much lower compared to the other two categories in Q3, but still generating some growth also in Q3.
Okay, can you guide us on Red Lobster's share of loss in Q3 and Q4? Does it improve from the second quarter? And what about the share of profit from Avanti?
I think in terms of Red Lobster, I think in Q2 we told you the full year guidance was to be around between 900 to 1 billion baht. So I think we are in this scenario. What does it mean? I think after H1 we are already at minus 500. Okay, so it means that we do expect to have roughly the same to happen in Q3 and in Q4. So we don't think we will see a significant improvement of Red Lobster. I think in terms of share of loss from the operations and also from the lease, it should be kind of comparable compared to what we had in Q2. Different story for Avanti. I think we can see some improvement of the performance of Avanti in H2 compared to H1. You know, they have been impacted over the past few months and quarters by some recall in the US. Now this is behind them. Of course, they've been impacted also by the inflation on some raw material. The same story that happened for us in our own TFN business. I think they are recovering. So we should see some improvement in the share profit from Avanti in Q3.
Okay, will the strong sales growth momentum in Q3 carry on in Q4?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that we expect the growth to be still here in Q4. Just keep in mind the Q3 again last year we were impacted by the closure of some of our factories. In Q4 last year it was not the case. So that's why I think the growth in Q3 may be a bit higher compared to the growth we will have in Q4.
Okay, can you share your view of the aquatic feed demand TFM for Q3 and Q4? And will there be any improvement from Q2?
So I think in our feed business, I'm sure you have seen all the challenges we have been facing in Q1 and Q2. We have roughly the same situation. Okay, so we don't expect any significant change, positive or negative. I think we should be quite aligned that we have. I'm talking about the whole feed business. I'm not talking about TFM because TFM is a listed company, so they have their own communication, of course, as usual. But overall, we can see the feed business, there is no big change compared with what we have seen since the beginning of the year. I think next year will be definitely improving compared to this one, but here the whole year will be complex. I think they mentioned that also in their Q2 communication, if you do remember.
Okay, has the declining freight cost benefited Thai Union in the third quarter, and by how much?
Yeah, I think this is one of the positive news that we will elaborate on during our Q3 communication. Definitely, we see the freight cost decreasing. We are far away still from being back to a normal situation, but definitely it is improving. It is improving, so we will share the exact number. But I told you overall, the guidance for the SG&A will be in the high range of our full year guidance, which is a decrease compared to what we had in Q1 and Q2. So we see our percentage of SG&A is nicely normalizing. Okay, it's a very good news for the business. Of course, keep in mind that at one stage, because we did increase our prices since last year to absorb this logistic cost increase, at one stage, of course, we will have to get back to our retail, to our consumers and to our customers. Okay, so I do expect at one stage our NSV will be impacted, our gross profit margin also will be impacted by this. I think it's a bit too early right now. Still under process right now, and we do expect to have some further normalization to happen. We need to make sure it is sustainable, but right now there is a good trend. There is good trend in terms of costing, of course. There is good trend also in terms of lead time, okay? And we told you that one of the key explanation for us for the increase of our net working capital and net debt was the increase in inventories. As soon as the lead time is decreasing, then we'll be able to have less inventory. So that's a very good news. You will not see the impact in our net debt already in Q3, but over the next few quarters, we do really expect to see some improvement here. So very good news. We will share some details in our Q3 communication, and overall the guidance for the SG&A will be in the high range again of our full year guidance.
Okay, I heard that you've done some restructuring plans for Red Lobster. Can you share the process and the progress towards that?
So I'm not sure exactly what is referred here in terms of restructuring. I think we did a significant restructuring, but it was 2 years ago. In terms of shareholding, okay, when Golden Gate wanted to exit, they did exit, and then we, together with Seafood Alliance, we became the only shareholders of Red Lobster. So this is this one that was done 2 years ago. There was nothing recent on this one. But apart from that, there was some, maybe you are referring to some changes in the management. Yes, you're right. The CEO Kelly left, but it's not a new news. I think it happened last April. She was replaced by an acting CEO, which is Paul that we know, which is coming from Minor. He's from Seafood Alliance. He has 20+ years of experience in the restaurant industries. So right now he's acting as CEO in the US. He's very present in the US, and we really trust he will be able to turn around the situation. There were some few departures also at Red Lobster. The CFO left, so he was replaced by his deputy. And again, there are some few new other people in the management team. Okay, we are very present right now. Kun Ritirong, our head of frozen, is in Orlando, so we try to be much more involved together with Seafood Alliance. So the two key shareholders, Red Lobster, of Red Lobster, so being Thai Union and Seafood Alliance, are here and really trying to help the management in this difficult context. Apart from that, I don't see any other specific changes which happen at Red Lobster.
Okay, can we expect any one-off items in Q3?
So I think we don't expect anything very large. Okay, in Q2 we told you there was the one-off regarding the German factory closure, which was 300 million baht in terms of impact. We don't expect to have seen anything in this range in Q3.
Okay, can you elaborate more on the benefit of the weakening Thai baht? How much of your revenue is in US dollar and how much is hedged?
So here, I think you're right. We are mostly an export business. The key exposure for us is Thai baht versus dollar. The dollar right now is very strong. So we are always benefiting when the Thai baht is very weak compared to the dollar, which is the case right now. This is for the general picture. We do hedge a very significant portion because we want to be very conservative. We have very strict rules in terms of governance and how do we manage the FX risk. So we hedge the vast majority of our sales, okay, and also even of our inventories, okay. So we will not benefit from the whole USD appreciation because we are hedged. Of course, on this one, again, the vast majority is hedged on this one, but overall it's a positive impact. It's also a positive impact because we have a pure translation effect. You know that we have a very significant portion of our business denominated in dollars from the US, from our ambient and frozen business. So when we translate this one in Thai baht, we are benefiting from a very positive translation effect. It's not new. We benefited already from this one in Q1, in Q2, and the same situation should happen in Q3. Okay. Now the dollar is super strong right now. How long will it last? Let's see. I would expect that at one stage it will decrease, especially versus euro and versus GBP. The dollar is really strong also, and it may create some issues at one day. Okay, so we are expecting some reaction coming from the central bank of Europe and also in the UK. They have been reacting a bit, but there should be some kind of normalization, at least from the euro and the GBP over the next few months. This is clearly our expectation.
A follow-up question is, will FX gain in Q3 be similar to the amount in Q2? Yeah,
I think in Q2 it was quite kind of significant. I would expect we will again generate some FX gain in Q3, yes, but maybe to a bit lower amount. Okay, we don't expect to have exactly the same amount that we had in Q3. In Q3, the change of the dollar was very strong. There will be another change also happening and a positive impact for us. But I think it will be a bit lower compared to what we had in Q2.
Okay, we have enough time for maybe several more questions. Please feel free to submit your question in the chat box or unmute your microphone. Can you tell us what are the positive views for Q4?
I think we have already a lot of positive news for Q3. The momentum is good, okay? And again, we do expect to have a strong Q3, and we do think the same will happen also in Q4. For the timing, I don't see any reason for a radical change to happen in Q4. The whole year in terms of demand was strong, and mostly in our most profitable business, okay? The pet care, or the first 6 months and hopefully also in Q3 will be, the demand will be very strong, really growing. The ambient also is doing really well. We have different performance depending on which region you are talking, but overall we are doing well. The frozen business is the one which is a bit less performing for us. In 2022, that was expected. If you do remember, 2021, they did achieve a record high performance, and we told you that there will be some normalization. We see the normalization happening in Q1, in Q2, and it continues also in Q3. However, this is usually our less profitable business. Okay, so when our frozen business is decreasing in terms of mix compared to the ambient and the pet care, it's a good news for our gross profit margin. And I think this is what has happened already in Q2, what will happen also in Q3. So positive momentum. We still have some challenges. Red Lobster definitely is still under heavy challenges. We are facing some challenges with inflation, but also we have also very positive news, I think, and very good support for our business.
Okay, question on the IPO of iTail. So we will sell 60 million shares of iTail. Will there be a gain from that transaction? So will there be any impact in our P&L in Q4?
So the expectation from the IPO, because we will sell only 20+% of our shares in iTail, so we'll keep around 80% of iTail after consolidation. Okay, so it will remain as a subsidiary. So because of this one, any capital gain will be recorded through equity. Okay, so we don't expect to have any impact in our P&L happening in Q4 from this transaction.
And the pet care growth, is it organic or non-organic growth?
I think we don't have anything non-organic. So the whole growth coming from pet care and value added is purely organic. I think what we said in Q2 is absolutely valid. You know, we had many projects. We are very strong in terms of R&D, especially in the pet care. You have seen some very, very nice pictures of the product we are proposing for the pet care. And we had many projects which were ongoing with some very large customers. And the point is in 22, all these projects are being realized. Okay, and this is why we are enjoying such a strong activity. And hopefully it will be sustainable. But this is very positive. I can tell you we are very pleased with the progress made by the pet care and value added. Keep in mind, the category pet care and value added is a combination of our pet care business, which is the majority of this category, our packaging business, which is also a very attractive business, and our value added business also. So all the three of them, the three subcomponents, are really growing. But of course, the shining star, as we call from time to time, the pet care has been delivering very, very strong performance in 22.
Okay, can you please touch on again the guidance for loss from Red Lobster in Q3 and Q4, excluding the one-off?
I think Q3 and Q4 we should be in the same range as in Q2. We told you in Q2 that the full year guidance was between 900 to 1 billion baht. This is still our expectation. So if you just divide by 2, you should not be too far away. Okay, so Q2 share of loss was kind of significant. Q3 and Q4, this is not the best quarters for Red Lobster in terms of seasonality. So we do stabilize a bit the situation. We have been increasing our prices, but we don't expect any significant improvement in the performance. We do expect the improvements of the performance of Red Lobster to happen in Q1 2023.
Okay. For the gross profit margin, the analysts heard that we won't be impacted if the tuna price is around $1,700. But before we mentioned a range that anything below $2,000 is manageable. So what is the manageable range for us?
I think what we communicate on that earlier was to say between 1400 to 1700. This is what we call our comfort zone. Okay, and anything exceeding this one and anything exceeding the 2000 was something difficult for us to handle. I'm not sure I mentioned that anything below 2000 was manageable. Again, the comfort zone, what we call, is between 1400 to 1700. Something which is very important also is the speed of the change. Okay, just for you to remember. Okay, so if there is a very quick drop or increase of the fish price, this is something which is difficult for us to manage because we have a lot of inventories. Of course, if the fish price is going up, we are kind of protected by our large inventories, but if the fish price is going down, then for us it's an issue also. Okay, so for us, we just need to, the positive situation will happen where you don't have significant change from one quarter to another quarter. You always have some changes, but we don't want to have violent changes. Okay, we want the changes to be smooth and to gradually increase or decrease. And if you can remain in this kind of range of 1400 to 1700, this is good. Just keep in mind the price we are talking about here, it's always the skipjack, okay, which is the species of tuna which we are using the most. Different situation if you are talking about the yellowfin or the albacore that we are using in Europe and in the US. Here we are facing a bit of more inflation. It would be too complicated to give you some guidance for every types of tuna, but keep in mind the guidance we give you is always on the skipjack, okay, which is the most popular tuna we are using. There could be some particularities if you talk about the yellowfin or also the albacore.
Okay, so we have just a little under 5 minutes. Does anyone else would like to raise any further questions? Please feel free to do so now. Maybe Ludo, can you or give us an idea of what would be the impact about the minimum wage increase in Thailand and also overseas?
Yeah, so I think you heard the increase in terms of minimum wage. For the timing, it's only in Thailand. I didn't hear anything overseas. Okay, it may happen. So here the increase will be between 6 to 7% from what we heard on that one. And the effectiveness will be in October, if I'm not wrong on that. Okay, that was expected, guys. We told you already in Q2 the inflation is very strong, and Kunturapong even mentioned that he said it was a good thing because we have, and especially in our factories, we have some people being paid with a minimum salary, and it was a difficult situation for them to face this very strong inflation. So definitely, we do believe it's a good thing to do. Of course, we need to absorb that from a costing point of view. I think this is one another source of inflation, but we have been working a lot regarding efficiency, automation over the past few years. Okay, and everyone in Thailand will be affected also by the increase. We do expect to have the same increase also to happen in all the other countries. Okay, right now Thailand is the first one to have mentioned about this one, but I'm sure that in the other countries from Asia they will face with the same, and also with all our competitors. So it will be another source of inflation. We'll have to either to try to mitigate with the impact on this one with further automation, further efficiency, or we'll have to pass it through to the customers. Okay, so I think that was expected. So no big surprise for us. I think we will manage.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about if there's any impact to us in Thailand if the interest rates increase?
Yeah, I think you heard yesterday or 2 days ago, the central bank in Thailand did increase a bit. I was a bit surprised. Honestly, I was expecting much more stronger, but I guess they want to support the economy. But this is also one of the reasons why the dollar is so strong versus Thai baht, I do believe. So here, what you need to keep in mind is I think we have something like 2/3 of our net debt, which is with the fixed rates. So there shouldn't be an impact. We are still exposed on 1/3, but we need some hedging also on this one. So at the end of the day, we are not totally exposed. Yes, there should be some impact. You will see some increase of our finance cost in 22 compared to 21, and very likely some increase in 23 to 22. Two key drivers. Yes, the interest rate increase is one of the drivers, but also the fact that our net debt has been increasing is also the key factors. And this is why I was saying the news on the logistic cost is and the normalization of the lead time to the US is happening right now So we do expect to have some decrease of our net debt. This is very good news for us. But definitely, yes, we will be impacted by the interest rate increase. We are kind of protected with our fixed rate and also with the fact that we do hedge also a lot of our variable rate. Okay, so there shouldn't be any very larger impact, but yes, there will be some impact and some inflation in our finance cost in 22 for the whole year and also in 23.
Yeah. Thank you, Ludo. So I think we have reached the hour. Maybe I can send it back to Kun Ing to close the session.
So thank you very much everyone for your participation and thank you for all the questions. So let me wrap up the session for today, and we are expecting and looking forward to see all of you in our earning calls and analyst meeting in early of November. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Stay safe and see you next month for the earnings release.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ